I'm Brandon Miller, and you are listening to Coach. This weekly series dives deep into the world of Clifton Strengths and how they impact your daily life. Hear from certified strengths coaches on the ins and outs, quirks, and characteristics of all 34 strengths and 4 domains and how they play out in real life. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to Coach Season 2 of the Strengths Whisperer. I am here today with Dawn Petchell Luepke. She goes by Petchell for all of you, those who are wondering. And today, Dawn and I are talking about command. You heard it right? Command. Here we go. Petchell, are you ready to dive into the strength of command today?
1000%.
Petchell is coming to us from Nashville, Tennessee, and she wanted to say hi to all y'all out there in Nashville and make sure you know that she is open for business. And she is coaching individuals, teams, small to mid-sized companies, executive coaching, strengths-based leadership development. Petchell, tell them a little bit about what you're up to there in Nashville.
Thanks, Brandon. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so exactly. I love team building through the lens of strength-based. So what that means is usually small business owners or executive leadership will bring me in to help their team work better together. So we start with, through the lens of strengths, who are you as an individual? What is your zone of genius? And what are you contributing into the company, organization? And then we really move to understanding each other and helping them learn this common language of strengths so that they understand and can appreciate each other. And then we move into translating, how are we working together that aligns with the mission and vision for the organization? So where are we successful and where are those pain points? And so then we talk about, well, what are the outcomes? What does working together mean? What is the outcome we're wanting to achieve? So some of those topics typically are around communication with each other or building trust or how can we better collaborate, right? So each person brings something, but collectively, that's where the magic happens. And then,
awesome.
Yeah. And then, so individually, as I work with people individually, it could be from an organization or they come in on their own. And I work with clients on their personal branding, getting
there you go.
Yeah. Getting really clear. Simply put, you are your brand. And so you really need to know who you are, what specific value you bring, what environment you're going to thrive in. And then once that is clear, then we can go ahead and identify what impact do you want to make on your community. And then we talk about the action plan. And that's where the transformation happens to me, is the report gives you the aha insights into who you are. And then we go and say, hey, what's the action I need to live out the best version of yourself? So really, my job is to help clients identify how to operate from a place of your genius zone, or being in the flow, being the best version of yourself. So that's what I do.
Petchell, where can people find you?
The easiest place is LinkedIn, Dawn Petchell Luepke, Luepke. Definitely send me a message. Love to hear from you. Comments on my posts.
All right, there we go. So we're talking about command today, Petchell. And I want to start with a question around, what is command to you? You saw it on your Clifton Strengths report. You're a Gallup certified coach. You know the language. You use the language. But here is command, one of the rarest strengths in all the world. It's consistently in the bottom 5 list, second from the bottom. Very much one that can be misunderstood because of how rare it is. And so here you are, someone with strong command. How do you define it? How do you help others to understand it?
So I'm going to go back to your first question about, I read my report and what did I think? So I'm going to go back years and years and years, Brandon. I kept getting feedback. I was even thinking about, it was like back in high school, I would get feedback from people that was pretty similar. People would say, I'm intimidated by you. People would say, I noticed you. Wow, who are you when you walk into the room? People would call me a truth teller. people would say all these things to me that I didn't understand. People would say, I'm really drawn to your self-confidence. And I don't know about you, but I felt pretty insecure in high school. And so I was
you and the rest of us. You and the rest of us.
Yeah, right. But I was baffled by people were recognizing something in me that I didn't see and I didn't understand. And then I would sometimes really turn people off. And, I think people would say, Petchell's not for everybody. And so I didn't know what that meant. So I went and I asked a couple of friends, and one person said to me, you have no filter. And I was thinking in my head, she says that like it seems like that's a negative. So again, that's like how raw that was, right? This was many years ago. And then I had another friend who said, you're a truth teller, and I appreciate that about you, but I think you lack the grace that goes with your truth telling. In fact, I heard you say you can share something and you can be 100% right, 100% wrong, because you're 100% right in your content, but the delivery is so off. And so he said, why don't you think about pairing grace with your command? And so that's where it was. So I still didn't really understand it. And fast forward, 2017 is when I took the assessment. I was literally going through the program to become a coach. And we had a strengths coach come, and I took it. And when I opened this report in 2017 and I read command, I stopped and said, wow, this is what everyone was telling me. This is what they're talking about. Command, the definition is you have presence. And presence is a talent. So that was a really big aha moment for me, that what people saw, the words that were put to it, and then the science behind it, because it's an assessment and it's accurate. I was like looking around the room, like, what were those questions that they figured out that's about me?
So when you build off of that, so keep going down that path. You took the assessment, you saw the word presence, and here you are, certified now. You're someone who is a practitioner. You know this strength well. How do you describe it to others?
So I thrive in environments where I get to take on a challenge. I need to step into a challenge. And I love being able to influence the culture of an organization. I like to notice what's working, and I really notice what's not working, and I'll say and do something about it. And I think that's really the differentiator is I can be comfortable with the uncomfortable conversation. And by comfortable, I actually mean it's not that I feel comfortable, but rather there's a willingness and a courage to have the conversation. I actually, I found this very inspirational quote by Susan Scott, wrote this book called Fierce Conversations. And she said, while no single conversation is guaranteed to transform a company, a relationship, or a life, any single conversation can. And I live by that. Like any conversation, like this conversation, you and I can walk away and something can be transformed enough. And I find that so powerful, and I live by that. I'm compelled by stepping into deep conversations with people. Yeah, I'm compelled to like step in and stand for somebody. That's why I think I love coaching and training, is because people are coming to a coach when they're stuck. And so I want to stand in, like, where are we stuck? And I'm going to be that stand. So I'm compelled to be in there.
Compelled, good. Comfortable with uncomfortable conversations. Joined today by Petchell Luepke, and we are talking about command. And when we think about this strength, and I get to talk also today from someone who has dominant command, you might find that you were thrust into leadership, whether you thought to volunteer or not. You were in a small group in school, in a team sport or team activity. And when it came time to select leadership, you almost always found yourself in that position, whether you sought it yet or not. Additionally, with this strength, you might find that you're an emotional clarifier. You can go into a situation where there might be chaos, confusion, things just seem out of alignment, and then you speak and clarity comes because you have the ability to bring a clarion voice to a level of confusion. All signs that high command might be yours. And Petchell, you're doing such a good job of helping us with this concept of comfortable with uncomfortable conversations. I can remember being a very young leader. This is early 20s. And I was in a capacity of leadership that required that I recruited and worked with volunteers. And at one point in this time, I had a much older volunteer, so almost 25 years older, and someone that you might say commented on occasion about my youthfulness in regards to decision making. And I can remember being instructed at one point that this person and some of what they were doing was not in alignment with our overall purpose, intent, and mission at the time. And I was asked to go have a difficult conversation. And I remember someone coaching me on this. You got to go say this, you got to go do this. And in my mind, I can remember it not being hard, just something that had to be done. Something had to be said. We had to sit down. We had to clarify where we were. And though, sure, there was some discomfort, it was command leans into the discomfort, not away from it. It goes toward the conflict, not behind it. And it's willing to step into that. And I'm curious as we further define this today, Petchell, around your own development as a coach. So now I want you to come to us from you're coaching someone else with command. And they're, in that space of having it develop. What are some ways that you help others come to terms with this strength, grow it, develop it, so that it does have its greatest impact?
Recognize that they need to be in leadership roles. I think your example is really true. I moved up to executive management. Again, I found myself looking over my shoulder thinking, how did I get here? I'm sitting here, I'm leading meetings of 20 people and leading people, managing projects. And I thought, I can't believe I get paid to lead a meeting. Like, how did I get here? And it was so simple. So I think recognizing you need to be in leadership in some form or fashion. And it doesn't have to be at work. Maybe you're in charge of something outside of work. I think you really need to respect that, because if you don't, it's not being fed, right? And so I would say need to be in a leadership role. I think you need to be really careful and pay attention, really leverage that presence, because I learned walking into a room, people notice me and I'm going to have an impact on people. And so be intentional about your impact. Be really super clear. What is it you want to achieve? Like, remember, these are gifts, right? These are talents. Talents is a gift. And a gift is to give to somebody, right? You have a gift closet at home? Like, I have gifts, right? It's like to wrap it up and give it to somebody. Here's a gift for you. So it's actually to give to somebody else. So if I'm in a bad mood and I'm going to be rude, or I'm going to call somebody out, that's not being a gift. That's not leveraging it for other people. So I would say be really clear on your intention. When I walk into a room, when I'm leading, what's my intention here? And carry and conduct yourself in a way, because command lends itself to people want to follow you. You either compel or repel, right? You compel or repel. And so you naturally will compel people to be excited and get on board and go with you. So this natural and easy for you to do that. So go be intentional. So I'd say be in leadership and be intentional.
That's good. Compel or repel. And I think something you said regarding recognize that you need to be in a leadership role. And I would add in coaching, recognize that you're always qualifying for leadership. Leadership is something that is very measurable, because you can tell if people are actually following you. Titles do not make for leadership. Leadership requires movement, and people follow leaders that they trust, people that they believe have their best interest, people that they can see, want to inspire, want to motivate them. And this is where your compel or repel. When I coach command, I tell them leadership is a subject to learn, and it's a life to live. And it's an opportunity to grow and develop every single day. As soon as you think you've reached a pinnacle of leadership, you've only just found another level. You didn't actually reach a top, because there isn't one. It keeps progressing on. And so if you have high command, leadership will find you whether you want it to or not. And so aspirationally, what can be encouraged is be a good one. Be a good one. Be a good leader, because you can raise your voice louder or be clarifying or cut right through the emotional confusion to get right to here's what we're going to do. That doesn't make you a good leader. It just means you're louder and out in front. And you can tell people what to do. I like the image of Lucy from Charlie Brown, who would just tell everybody, all right, here's what we're going to do. And she would just step in and cut through the chatter and cut through the confusion. And then she pulled the darn ball out from Charlie, right? And then this behavior. And so as a leader, we have an option. And people with high command, we're gonna find ourselves there. We get to be that kind of leader, but we also get to decide: do we compel or do we repel? Petchell, that was great. I want to take us to the team now. So let's say that you're a person, you don't have high command, and oh my, we're working with commands on the team. Maybe just one, maybe more than one, depending on the size of the team. So how does a team or a leader with someone with command, what are some ways to cultivate, develop, empower, bring the best out of this particular strength?
I think teaching them, like I think what you were saying before about, there's a lot of clarity around that leadership. And you build trust. Brene Brown says being clear is kind and being unclear is unkind. And I think that this talent theme particularly brings that, and it brings integrity and clarity, and people can get on board. And then you're going to miss it. At some point, you're going to miss it with somebody. And so I think cultivating it is sometimes realizing you need to ask permission. Hey, is it okay if I share this? Somehow tee it up. I'm going to put something out there. Don't make a big deal, but just tee up so the other person is preparing. So if you're coaching somebody with command, or you're cultivating or being around somebody with command, know like, hey, oh, here it comes. They're teeing me up. And then also be willing to take account and apologize really quickly. That's a really good skill. Hey, I missed the mark. Don't make excuses for it. Don't say, oh, that's just my command. Don't throw it away. Hey, I missed it with you. I apologize. Will you forgive me for being rude?
That was really good. And I want to build on what you just said from this standpoint. When you're the leader of someone with high command, I think it's okay to acknowledge you might feel some level of intimidation by that strength, because what Petchell was describing with presence, and there's a power to that, and there's a force to it. And so here, when you are leading a command, be very clear. As you said, clarity is being kind. Is that quoting Brene correctly?
Being clear is kind, unclear is unkind.
Right. And if you're leading a command, clear is essential, because what a command hears is it hears through the filter of what is clear call to action. And when it doesn't hear clarity, it's compelling to them. They must step into the void. They must step into the space because something will be missed. And depending upon the maturity of that command, it'll affect the force of that confrontation. Because remember, command can confront just by speaking, just by raising their hand, just by engaging, because that presence brings a force and a weight. And if a leader isn't well understanding, it can feel almost like, why are you pushing on me? Why are you bringing this at that level? And command might be going, I'm just breathing here. I'm just talking. I'm just sharing from my perspective. This is just my normal face. This is just how I woke up this morning, how I show up. This isn't extra. And because there's so many times with leaders, I've had to help untangle this as we would go through their strengths. And I would say, oh, let me tell you about this team member. You probably experienced this, this, and this. They would go, how did you know? Oh my gosh. I feel at times like they're just, and common word, usurping my authority. They're stepping on my toes. And I said, well, truth be told, they very well may be. However, if you provide them with clear, actionable intel, you're not creating confusion, because commands and confusion do not mix well. Confused minds do nothing. Command, when it encounters confusion, does everything. It comes back at it. It'll actually create such a dissonance that a command will move to an offensive. It'll actually move it forward to say, I'm not going to retreat from the confusion. I'm going to engage it because I need the clarity. Keep bringing me to clarity. And it's actually, I'll tell this, I've told some team leaders this, having a command on your team is a gift for your leadership development, because it will force you to find clarity of initiatives. It will force you to really think about mission, vision, action, plans. And I'll give you this one too, because Petchell, imagine you're in a meeting that doesn't have a really good agenda. And you're sitting in the meeting and you start to wonder, why are we here? What are we doing? What happens inside of you, Petchell, when you're in that kind of meeting?
I cannot believe you said that. So I had a job where that was literally her leadership style, was to not have an agenda. And not only that, but she had high individualization. And so if somebody called and said, I can't make it, she'd want to reschedule the entire team meeting. So as you can imagine, every week something would happen and it kept getting rescheduled and there was no agenda. And it was incredibly triggering for me. And it was very stressful because command, I came with my list of items that I want to report on, that I had questions that I needed clarity on so I could keep moving with my job. I'm an independent worker, but I take these opportunities of an hour together. Let me get some details and let me get going. I'll be back next week. And so I remember I was only in a job I really, really tried to keep my mouth shut. I really did. And I was a couple of months in and I pulled my boss aside after the meeting. I said, can I ask you a question about culture? And she said, yes. I said, is this normal? Can I continue to expect that team meetings won't have an agenda and they'll keep getting rescheduled? And she was very flustered and very it was, like you said, it's the air I breathe. I feel confused in this environment. I want to get clear. Can I expect this? And the answer was yes. And so I moved on and I didn't bring agendas anymore. And I didn't care if it happened or didn't happen.
I think that was such a great question. And for your leader to go, yeah, that's just how it is here. Because then a command can accept it. Because think about it this way, as we wrap up our time today, Petchell, if we're working with a command, that ability that they have to push back to them, that pushback is not combative nor confrontive. It's conversation. We're just talking here because command lives in such a space where debate and us, putting ideas out there and having passion and force and weight, we're just having a chat. We're just having a chat. And this is just us finding our way through a solution. But because it's rare, it has a very natural way to be misunderstood. And so on both sides, it's the care we take when we are strong in command, the care we take when we lead command, the care we take when command's on our team, in our family, and understanding coupled with self-awareness really advances this particular strength. So Petchell, thank you so much for taking some time to join us today. We could keep unpacking this one far and wide. We're just coming up on the end of our time. And so I want to tell you listeners, that 34 Strong is sponsoring this season of the Strengths Whisperer Coach to Coach. And we do have a resource for you. And it's called How to Be a Good Teammate to Me. And inside of this, we find contributions for each of the 34 strengths coupled with their needs. So for command, for example, some contributions are presence, keyword that Petchell told us about today, provides clear direction, effective debater, precise language. So there's things they bring, but there's also some really clear needs, and I'll read a few. They need decisiveness. They need clarity of direction. There's that word again. They need to be heard. They need respect. This is really important. And listen to this one. Others to speak their mind and challenge their views, meaning it's okay for a command to be wrong. They're actually comfortable with it. They're actually comfortable when they're told they're wrong, comfortable when they are told that, hey, you're too far. Commands handle negative feedback really well. Critical feedback actually feeds them because at times they're not aware because they're out in front of themselves how they're landing. And so truthful feedback is a gift to command. So Petchell, thank you again for joining us. If you want to find her, Dawn Petchell Luepke on LinkedIn. Again, all of you that might be coming to us from Nashville, strengths-based leadership development, team development, small, mid-sized companies. And Petchell has even a background in government. So she's happy to help you if you're in the public sector. Petchell, any last thoughts on command before we wrap up today?
I love this. I think everything you said was so on point, and the grace that is needed. I think the point about giving feedback is awesome because it helps us course correct really quickly. So that was a great point. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, listeners, thank you so much. If you do want to get your hands on how to be a good teammate to me, contributions and needs of all the strengths, including a really cool team exercise called Best of Us, Brandon at 34strong.com, or you can just reach out to us where you listen to this episode. Again, thank you for joining Coach to Coach. Today was Command with my guest, Dawn Petchell Luepke, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Strengths Whisperer Coach to Coach. Please feel free to reach out to Brandon to partner with 34 Strong for collaboration opportunities to serve your employees or clients together. If you are a strengths coach, lead a strengths-based team, or are a fan of strength, we invite you to receive our complimentary resource, How to Be a Good Teammate to Me, Understanding My Contributions and Needs. Email Brandon_Miller at 34strong.com to connect, and he will gladly share this resource that will continue to unlock the power of strength.